Today, we will explore another crucial aspect of our democratic process, the crafting, amendment, and implementation of electoral laws, with a special focus on recent amendments to the Electoral Act 2022. I am your anchor, Ezenwa Nwagu. Electoral Reform Hour is a program aimed at fostering inclusive dialogue among citizens from varied backgrounds concerning electoral reform and constitutional amendment. We also hope to enhance public understanding and awareness regarding electoral reforms and possibly also compile and present citizen-derived recommendations to the National Assembly and INEC for consideration. This program is brought to you by Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PACA, with support from the MacArthur Foundation. You don't want to miss any edition of this program. The National Assembly is made up of the Senate and the House of Representatives and is expected to play a dominant and prominent role in the electoral reforms process so there can be stable democratic behaviors. Today, we have a vital discussion ahead, focusing on proposed amendments in our electoral laws. These changes are crucial for enhancing our electoral processes, transparency, efficiency, and credibility. We are honored to have the sponsor of a bill to amend select provisions of the Electoral Act 2022. The Honorable Francis Waive, member representing the good people of Uwele North South and Udu Federal Constituency in Delta State. Honorable, thank you for being our guest today.
It's my pleasure, and thank you very much for having me.
It's still the Electoral Reform Hour radio program, and you can be part of this live program by sharing your comments via the social media platforms on X at PACA NG with hashtag Electoral Reform Hour. And you can leave your questions and comments for us on Facebook at PACA, P-A-A-C-A, P-A-A-C-A, PACA, and our WhatsApp number on 081-680-83424. These phone lines will be opened soon. Don't miss out.
Are you ready for change? Join Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PACA. This program amplifies electoral reform campaigns and provides citizens with opportunity to make meaningful contributions that will strengthen our electoral process. As a National Assembly, INEC, and other stakeholders work towards improving our electoral process, you too can be a part of the decision-making process. Remember, democracy is for the people. Let your voice be heard. This message is brought to you with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Radio Nigeria, uplifting the people and uniting the nation.
Welcome back. You are listening to Electoral Reform Hour on the network services of Radio Nigeria. Remember to send your questions and comments via social media platforms on X at PACA-NG and with the hashtag Electoral Reform Hour. You can leave your questions and comments for us on Facebook at PACA and our WhatsApp number on 081-680-83424. The phone lines will be opened soon. Like I said, we have Honorable Francis Waive in the studio. He is an honorable member of the House of Representatives representing the good people of Uwele North South Udu Federal Constituencies. Until his election into the House of Representatives, Honorable Waive was the senior pastor of the Church of the Anointing Wari, and he helped establish the Riverine Communities Health and Development Organization, intended to dispense charity to the medically deprived communities of the core Niger Delta region. He is currently the chairman, House Committee on Rules and Business of the 10th Assembly in the House of Representatives. Honorable, you are welcome to this program.
Thank you. My pleasure, always.
It's good to see you today.
Thank you very much.
Knowing how much you've come, in terms of this process. You were first a member. You returned.
Yes,
second time. You were in the ninth assembly, and then returned.
Now in the 10th assembly.
10th assembly.
Yeah.
Welcome. And so, what is it like being chairman of rules and business committee? What does it look like?
It's such that you are almost forgetting that you are also there as a member representing your people. So you just want to serve your colleagues to ensure that their bills, their motions are well taken on the other paper every day, every legislative day. And the notice paper is available weekly. You want to make sure that the business of the house is run in such a way that the house does not attract public disapproval. So it's a very busy position, and God has been faithful to us. 1 year, we've done our bit, and we have also been able to give effective representation to the people of Ughelli North, Ughelli South, and Odu Federal Constituency. We look forward to better output as the years run by.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to have you, and knowing how much you invest in this legislative business. Your passion is almost very infectious.
Thank you.
So, Honorable, one of the proposed amendments to Section 28 suggests holding all elections, presidential, senatorial, House of Representatives, governorship, and State House of Assembly elections on the same day. What are the anticipated benefits of this approach, and how do you address concerns about logistical challenges?
Well, I have experienced 2 general elections, 2019, where I ran for the House and won, and then 2023. In 2019, the general elections were postponed by 1 week before even 2 before even starting. And then in 2023, after the first elections, there was this postponement again for the gubernatorial election and state assembly. I believe that INEC sees the elections as a period. They don't see that voting day as an event. When you bring all of it together, they will be able to work towards it as an event and deliver. And very importantly too, the cost it takes to do it twice. 1 day for the national, that's presidency, senate, and rep, and then another Saturday you do for governor and state assemblies. It's just repetition of the same thing. You end up spending double the cost. But if you do all in 1 day, you save at least 50% of the total cost of doing that. The only challenge that will be faced is for INEC staff to be up and doing. Instead of handling 3 ballot papers on that day, they will handle 5. And the same voter education that goes into 3 will go into 5. And the Nigerian people are getting very well enlightened, very conscious. They'll be able to deliver. It will save time, it will save money, it will save the logistics challenge. How do you close a country down for a whole month just because elections are holding? This time, if you do it in 1 day, you save man hours. Many people can go and face their business. And then also, this issue of bandwagon effect. If you look at the 2023 elections, after you did that presidential, Senate, and House of Reps, some people learned some loopholes. They found out that INEC was not sticking to the regulations that they had published. And so they were able to take advantage of that. And the results in the governorship and state assemblies were significantly different. So if you do all in 1 day, all that bandwagon effect will be completely done away with. I think is the way we should go as a country. The challenge my colleagues have brought up is that the 1999 Constitution as amended seem to give INEC the power to fix the dates, to do it as they please. To that extent, I've also brought up a constitutional amendment to specify it in the Constitution that other than off-season elections, the general elections you hold in one day. It will save this country a lot of expense.
If you remember, there was, at the initial stage, the power to fix election dates were in the hands of the National Assembly. The first amendment,
Yes.
INEC had to go to courts because it encumbers their, ability to organize without some of these obstacles and bottlenecks. So many times, and we are going to get to that, is that amendments doesn't always take into cognizance where we are coming from.
No,
what do you think about
No,
that?
what I'm suggesting, the amendment I'm bringing up now, is not to deprive INEC of that power of choosing the date, but the idea that the general elections will hold in one day. INEC, INEC can choose any date, but
do you have
one
examples of, because I know you're a painstaking, you take your time to cover. Do you have examples of where we can draw examples from to say they organize the election in one day? And remember also population. We're a big country. I know, for instance, without Liberia will organize in one day, what is the population? Perhaps, so you have 993 million people you are preparing for in every election, which is the cumulative population of voters in all of West Africa. If
Yes,
not even,
yeah.
So did you put that into context?
I'm glad that you've mentioned Liberia, so you know there are some examples.
Yes.
But my take has always been that we must bring up homegrown solutions that fit with our culture, that fit with our circumstances, that can thrive within the boundaries of our country. If you look at this separation we currently do, it's just a waste. When you do all in one day, it's the same manpower that you'll be putting in. About the same manpower. It's just voter education that we'll need to do in the first time when it's been implemented. I believe we don't have any serious challenge to this, other than this constitutional amendment that will have to come in. I don't see any practical challenge to this. This will help our country to save money, and it will be good for us. It will save man hours.
No, I've listened to you in many other places, and that was why it's joy that we have you, here today. So, the proposal to empower INEC to produce a new voter register every 10 years aims to maintain accuracy of the voters list and all of that. Could you elaborate on how this regular overhaul will be implemented and its expected impact on integrity of the election?
Yes. The integrity of the voters register is very crucial to the outcome of the election. Let me give a far-flung example. Today it is almost impossible to recall any member of parliament because the law requires that a certain percentage of registered voters must agree to it, sign up a petition. But when you have a voters register that is bloated, full of names of dead people, the people who have migrated, that's why the voter turnout, what we call the voter turnout in every election, and we describe it as voter apathy, does not really reflect the situation on ground. Because the voter register as we have it does not really convey the current situation of, look at your own polling unit, for instance. When they display the voters register, if it's in your village, I do it. You look at it, you see a lot of dead people, you see a lot of people who have migrated, and you'll be shocked that these people are still on this thing, but you don't want to offend the sensibilities of neighbors and relations. You don't want to come up and say, oh, remove A, B, C. You don't want to reduce people's population. But if we start doing it once in every 10 years, completely fresh registration, we'll do away with what has been in the data bank. Particularly these days when we have NIN, we have BVN and all of that, by the time you put all of this together, we'll be able to have a more credible voter register such that the turnout, the percentage turnout will become higher. It will become more credible because the people who are living, people who are right there, that will be doing this. Because in Nigeria, we don't have a good births register, deaths register that is being maintained. So if we do it every 10 years, and it won't cost us too much to do it, because currently, before every election, there is fresh voters registration for those who have come of age. I mean, those who have come up to 18 years of age, the voting age. But if you use that same opportunity once in every 10 years to do a total overhaul, a fresh registration, you find that the list that will come out will be more credible, will be cleaner, will be more useful, and the turnout of election day will be higher. That's my
Honorable, yes, I think that makes a lot of sense, but I don't know if you've considered community collusion in voter registration and how that affects, and by that you listed some things, for instance,
yes.
Cleaning the politicians, and you are one, even though you're a priest, but the politicians even provide death certificate for people who are alive. You know,
yes,
talk
yes.
of when you
Yes.
now go and say you are removing. So you know first that people are told the lie that their voting strength has something to do with the amenities that come to their community.
Yes.
So in proposing this bill, the sociological background, because you talked about you talked about us,
yes.
our culture,
Yes.
in this sense, I'm talking about political culture. How do you factor all of this? Because beautiful proposals, I've read through the proposals you are making, but I am looking at them from the lenses of who we are and the kind of political class that we have.
Yeah, one we must not also forget the impact of technology. By the time we started this current voters register, we didn't have biometrics and all of this that is now part of the system. So the ability to play pranks with the register, if we start a fresh one, is reducing. It's like in those days, politicians will, steal a ballot box. You still want to do it, it's of no use to you. In those days, people will write results. It's of no use today. In those days, people will pay and buy votes. It's gradually going away. So the system is getting better. So this social structure, family structure, community structure will bow to the availability of technology, biometrics. Somebody you cannot get his fingerprints, how do you register him? Somebody who is to produce his name while doing his voter registration, how do you register him? So you will find that most of these bloated voter number in some places will just drop drastically.
You're also aware that voting is not compulsory.
Yes, it's not.
In our country. And so there are many reasons why people would go to register. They could be registering because of what I talked about, because they would require it at their workplace or some. So all of this playing.
Yeah, well, there's no democracy around the world that gets 100% voter turnout. There's voter apathy in parts of the undeveloped world or developing world. One, because the results don't usually reflect the voting, and so people are like, oh, there's no use. But as development goes on, social democratic, people begin to find that the votes are beginning to count. You'll find that the apathy will begin to drop, particularly when you have a reliable register. And that's where I want us to go to as a country. If we have a reliable register and people are beginning to see that votes are counting, biometrics and technology is helping us to have a reliable register, the voter apathy will drop drastically. And people will not just register just in order to have it for identity purposes, but also to perform their civic responsibility. When they begin to see that what they do on voting day impacts on the development of their country, the quality of governance that comes thereafter, it's very key. If you don't get the electoral process right, that is when democratic backsliding comes to any nation. If you don't get the electoral process right, then people who are not selected or elected by the people find their way into office. People don't have faith in those in office. by not having faith in those that are in office, those in office can do what they like, not minding what people think, and democracy begins to lose its credence.
Yeah, you are raising legitimacy
people
issues.
People will begin to
question the legitimacy of those who govern. Power. Yes, but before I ask you my next question, the introduction of technology in the Electoral Act 2022 as amended,
yes,
where you now have INEC can deploy technology in the manner that they fit, brought things like the beavers, IVED first,
yes,
and then the beavers.
Yes.
Now the beavers worked in 2023 by all the data that is available.
You're correct.
So why do you think that a re-registration will do the magic that beavers is already doing?
Beavers is not already doing it because if you look at what happened in 2023 elections, there were deliberate attempts, man-made attempts to bypass beavers. That's the issue of registration, accreditation now. Beavers ought to accredit you before you vote. But because people want to, from the back door, reintroduce the incidence form that had become history, those regulations that INEC brought out, because they were not part of the Act, the Electoral Act, they were not enforceable in the tribunals, in the court of law. And that's where I want that amendment done to the Act, such that the technological provisions become enforceable. They are no longer...
Like which one?
No accreditation, no voting.
So if beavers performed in 98% of the places,
so be it,
where it was deployed,
so be
according
it,
to the data,
so be it. Yeah, and even in those 2% where it was said not to have,
yes, 8,803 polling units in the country.
Those were man-made. I ran the election myself. I know that just asking my agents to snap with their phone the results sheet and WhatsApp it to a particular number, which is my own situation room.
Yeah.
I was able to know before the end of election day what my margins were, in each of the units, each of the wards, and I knew by the margin with which I had won the election. You see, but when you want to make the system fail, you will now say, beavers did not capture, IRF did not upload. By the time you make it a matter of law, you will find that those excuses will all fly through the window.
Thank you.
We need to do that in this country.
Well, you're also talking about amendment to Section 130, which aims to penalize individuals who file baseless petitions. And how do you believe this will prevent these baseless lawsuits, and what criteria will be used to determine, if a petition is indeed baseless?
If you look at the legal actions, the litigations that follow every election in Nigeria, the number is increasing by the day. So in every election, the number keeps rising, and many of those petitions are very, very frivolous. Take an example. A man who comes, say, 6th, 7th in an election, he goes to court, and then in my case, for instance, there was somebody who scored less than 3,000 votes, where some of us were scoring 50-something thousand votes. He went to the tribunal and also even went to the Court of Appeal. And this is somebody who did not campaign, did not do anything, did not score anything. So you now take a lawyer and then you begin to bog the system down. Once the court can look at the application filed by any litigant and find that you actually have no grounds, they just...
Honorable, we'll just take a short break. When we come back, when we return, we will go back to this issue, and I'm really interested in it. You can join the conversation by calling our phone lines, but for now, we'll take a little break first.
Are you ready for change? Join Hearing Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PACA. This program amplifies electoral reform campaigns and provides citizens with opportunity to make meaningful contributions that will strengthen our electoral process. As the National Assembly, INEC, and other stakeholders work towards improving our electoral process, you too can be a part of the decision-making process. Remember, democracy is for the people. Let your voice be heard. This message is brought to you with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Radio Nigeria, uplifting the people and uniting the nation.
The phone lines are now open. You can join the conversation by calling us on 091 5091 0483, 091 5091 0482. These are the two numbers you can call us on: 091 5091 0483 or 091 5091 0482. Remember, this is your program. Call in and be part of the conversation. Yes, Honorable, before we went on that short break, you were talking about the question on the baseless petitions and all of those issues.
And it's on these frivolous petitions, you now begin to see some technicalities begin to come up. Oh, your educational qualifications were not on INEC portal. Oh, you are not up to the height to contest an election. Those useless
we have a caller
that are not part of the law.
Honorable, we have a caller. Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you. Can we meet you? What is your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Adam West. I'm calling from Suleja.
Okay, from Suleja. From Suleja.
Yes. My name is Adam West from Suleja. Adam West.
Adam West from Suleja. Is our pleasure.
Yes.
Welcome.
Good evening, Honorable.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
I enjoy your conversation. Nigerian enlightenment. We are. You see, what I'm trying to contribute here is that what's wrong with we going electronic in our PVC, permanent voters card? So that even if you are in the village, but all you need to do is just to walk down, press, and then press the party you want, and then vote, and then go back to your home instead of allowing the splashing of boxes is still there. The manipulation of numbers are still there. Like last election, there was a situation where the result is already failed. All you need just announced in some states. What do we do about that thing? Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All of this is work in progress. We are now at Beaver's level where we have to upload results on the IREV. I think very soon we'll get to the level where we'll have real-time online voting, so that as we are voting, you are seeing the numbers changing on the screen, and you're able to tell immediately who has won the election. So you are right when you say there's still room at the collation centers to tamper with figures, and it's because we do not follow those regulations. So as a first cure, what I'm proposing is to make those regulations in 2023 become law, part of the act. By the time we get that right, we will now go the next step, which is to make elections real-time and online.
Thank you, Adam West. So we were talking about the litigations. I think you can round up that. And
so you find people who just take the name of any political party, become the candidate, and go home and sleep. And then they begin to bring up things that are not relevant to the election, how black or white the other candidate is, and even try to sabotage the process. Ensure those people who are uploading stuff and INEC don't upload
we have a caller.
Certificates and all that.
We have a caller. Hello.
Hello, good evening. My name is Isaiah, calling from Abuja. I'm a fan of the program.
Isaiah, it's good to have you.
So my question is this, that the Honorable was mentioning the fact that we needed to do a new registration every 10 years. It is a brilliant idea. I think I understand better from his perspective now. But then saying the fact that INEC is having challenges with distributing PVCs even after the end of the program, and also even conducting continuous registration at the local level. doing this might also disenfranchise people who are even in diaspora, who might want to come back on election day to come and vote on election day. On my own opinion, what I'm thinking is the fact that if this is done, and INEC is already having a process that is that does the cleaning of the voters register, isn't it better that we try to make that process a bit more accountable and a bit more transparent so that it does the work that it's supposed to be doing, as opposed to doing a fresh registration every 10 years? And also my second question is the fact that in this 10th Assembly, we've had one of the most diversified elected members in the House. Has it been a plus or a minus? Has it made the legislation more difficult than it was before? Or has it made it better than it was before? Those are my questions. Thank you very much.
Okay.
It's back to you.
Thank you very much. I would start by saying that the basis for the 10-yearly fresh registration must be understood, especially the first one we have to do. It is to clean up the register. If we understand that, we'll be able to take it better. And then I must also add that when we start doing this idea of people not coming to collect their voters card, the number will also drop, because I can tell you as a participant in the process that many of those things are manipulated. By the time you do it in the way I'm describing, every 10 years there will be a fresh one, you will find that the percentage of those who register will drop and the number of those who collect will increase, and you find that the system will be more credible. Well, what we are facing right now is that politicians gather people together, register them at point A, and then take the same people to register at point Z. Then by the time of collection, there's a challenge. That's what we are facing, and that's the truth of the matter. So if we do this continuous fresh registration, and it's happening at the same time across the country, all of that will be eliminated. The number of political parties that are now in the House of Reps, I think we're about 8 or thereabout now, whether it has added any value.
Hello.
One of the beautiful things on the floor.
Yes,
Hello.
we have another caller. Yes, good evening.
My name is Omini. I'm calling from Masaka.
From Masaka?
Yes, in Accra State.
Your name is what again? Sorry?
Omini.
Omini, okay.
Yes, I'm calling from Masaka.
Thank you, Omini.
My contribution is this. INEC spend a lot of money in beavers. But after the election and after election was concluded and during the tribunal, the appeal court now said that the IREF is not a collation center. So my question is this: why is it that INEC spend a lot of money on beavers, and the court now say that the beavers is not IREF is not a collation center?
Thank you.
I want the honorable to help me.
Thank you, Omini.
Thank you. It's a very good question.
Can you conclude the one you were asking?
I'd like to address what he said because it's very fundamental. That question is the reason why I want to make it a part of the act, so it becomes a law enforceable in court. You know, as it is right now, it is not part of the act. It's not part of the law.
The question, Honorable, is
the beavers
is
after spending all the money.
Is IREF a collection center?
That is what we want to make it in the law. So IREF becomes the collation itself. So there is no use for going around in clusters to do collation anymore. We want to move from that level. That's the amendment we are bringing in.
Excellent.
That's the amendment we are bringing in. So you are thinking correctly, and that will solve the problem. Then the question about the number of parties in the House, whether it has improved legislation. One of the beautiful things about the Nation's Assembly is that most of us see our political parties as vehicles to get to a destination. When we get there, we try to look at the nation as a whole, and we try to work to better the country. That's the mindset we all have. But there's one lacuna there, and it's the fact that our political parties don't have any ideology, so that one can say, I am tilting to the left or tilting to the right, or this is what my party stands for. We don't have that today. So there's no difference really among all the parties, I'm sorry, in their manifestos. So by the time we all get to the House, we are all birds of the same feather, sadly. But our democratic experience is improving, and I believe that very soon parties would be distinct in what they stand for, and thus members would toe party lines. In fact, that's why you have whips for the minority and for the majority to whip members to toe party line.
Dear listener, the phone lines are opened. It's 091 5091 09483, 091 5091 0482. You can join the conversation by calling us now. Our guest has been Honorable Francis Waive, the chairman of Rules and Business in the House of Representatives and the promoter of the amendment bills that we are considering today. Honorable, you are talking about amending Section 47 to mandate accreditation, that only accredited voters can vote. That's where you've been talking about. Yeah. How will the amendment be enforced on election day? And what provisions are in place to address issues where the accreditation process might fail?
Well, in my experience in 2019, when I ran for the House of Rep and won, and also in 2023 I ran and won, many of the failures were man-made. In 2023, for instance, INEC made provisions for alternative machines where there's a failure.
Hello, sir.
Yes, thank you. Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Reverend Rufus Agbola Alabi.
Reverend Rufus.
We send the man in the house. God Almighty will continue to be with him and his team members.
Thank you.
We, the clergy, shall continue to be on our nail, and we shall be praying for them. For the success of this program, may God continue to be with you in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Once again, my name is Reverend Rufus Agbola Alabi in Katampe, Abuja. Thank you.
Reverend Rufus.
Thank you very
Agbola
much.
Alabi. Thank you.
That's solidarity with a fellow reverend.
Thank you very much. So as I was saying, the beavers thing, once people know that if you will not vote when you are not accredited, all this story of beavers failure will disappear. The cases that would remain will be very minute, that cannot affect the election and its results. What we have right now is to take advantage of the fact that you can do away with it and then do what you like. But once it becomes law, then all that will not happen. In the last election, INEC even made provision for replacement of beavers machines that don't work, but that didn't work. But what happened on election day? Nobody took advantage of those. So it became a situation where the machine didn't work. Let's do business as usual. And that went on around the country. And when people saw that it could happen in the first election for the presidency, the Senate, and the Rep, for the governorship, everything just went wild. So people began to just, there were many places where the beavers was not used at all.
In elections, we don't like to use many places. We like to use
majority of the places.
Yes,
of the voting centers.
because that's the point. Nigeria is 8,803 polling units. So if something happens in 200 polling units,
majority of the voting units they don't use again. The majority of the polling units did not use the beavers anymore. Trying to look at what happened in the first election, and that's something that we must cure. And that's why I want the law to become no accreditation, no voting.
Thank you. Now that the bill has been passed, second reading, yes, and moved to the Committee on Electoral, can you provide insights into what specific aspects of the committee will be focusing on, and are there anticipated amendments or areas of particular concern that are expected to be addressed?
I'm in touch with the chair of the Committee on Electoral Matters. What he and his members are thinking of is to get as many of these electoral amendments that are coming up and make them available to civil society organizations, to INEC, and then organize a public hearing where all views of the public will be sought based on all of this. So it will not just be only the amendments that I've proposed, it will be the ones proposed by everybody in the House, and we'll look at it at that public hearing. And we also, from my discussion with him, he's also trying to look at the timetable of the constitutional amendment, because there are some issues coming up for the constitutional amendment that impact on the electoral process. For instance, people are talking about parliamentary system of government. It's one of the bills that have passed first reading. We are now waiting for the debate in the second reading. We believe that kind of thing will impact on the Electoral Act. So to that extent, the constitutional amendment and the amendment of the Electoral Act appear to be things that will run pari passu. So the Constitutional Amendment Committee have said they are going to give themselves a 2-year period. And I think from my discussion with the chair of the Electoral Act Committee, is looking at such a time frame also, but with the proviso that the Electoral Act is ready on time, so that we don't go back to those challenges of the past, where a president can say, oh, it's too late to give assent, therefore I will not do that. And we must also remember that there's always one challenge with our country. When a president is seeking re-election, assenting to the amendment to the Electoral Act is always a challenge. Except for the late President Yaradua, who accepted from day one that his election, the process of his election was flawed. Every other person who is going through, every other president who has an election to face for re-election will always try to make the process impossible, such that the lacunas, the gaps in the present Electoral Act, they can take advantage of it and win re-election. Thereafter, they become serious and make sure that the thing is better when the next person is coming. That's the situation we are faced. So the civil society must do something about that and begin to cry now as loudly as possible, so that we don't have that situation when we get close to 2027.
Honorable Waive, our work is not to cry. Our work is to bring you here and put you
on the hotspot to do the job.
To talk to the people.
Yes.
You can WhatsApp us. You can send us messages on our WhatsApp number 081-680-834-24. 081-680-834-24. I think we still have opportunity to take some calls. 091-5091-0483, 091-5091-0482. We will take a short break now, and when we return, the program continues.
Wherever you are in Nigeria, north, south, east, and west, you can't miss Radio Nigeria Network News at 7 a.m., 4 p.m., and 10 p.m. every day.
For advert placement and inquiry, contact any of our offices nationwide.
Radio Nigeria.
Uplifting the people and uniting the nation.
Welcome back. Abdullahi from Abuja is saying, what is your view about the proposal of early voting provisions in the Electoral Act?
That is, if I understand that, it means before the D-Day.
Yes, for
people in diaspora and all that.
Not early voting could be for journalists, security officials,
vote before time,
election observers.
Nothing wrong with it. I think it should be one of the things, especially if it comes on the floor. Because one of the challenges that many of these proposals are in the newspapers. We must get our elected officials to present them on the floor as of the House of Representatives or in the Senate as bills for amendment of the Electoral Act. So just putting them in the newspapers is not enough. I'm Chairman of Rules and Business. I don't think I've seen this particular one among those that have come before the House, unless it has gone to the Senate.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you if you have an idea of how many of such electoral amendment bills that have come in.
Well, I've not total to know the exact figure, but as chairman of the Committee on Rules and Business, I do read every of the proposals that come in, and I've not seen something like this.
Hello.
Yeah, good evening to you.
Good evening. Welcome to Electoral Reform Hour.
My name is Mr. Zion. I'm calling you from Bayelsa State.
Mr. Zion from Bayelsa State.
Jabra.
Emil, sorry. Thank you for this privilege.
Welcome.
I want to be sincere to us and let us tell ourselves the truth in this country. When it comes to election in this part of the world, we are not sincere to ourselves. We are so hypocritical and we are so criminally minded when it comes to election in this country. You don't see the sincerity in us. You don't see the patrioticity in us. If Big Brother Niger can conduct election electronically to get their winners, how come Nigeria as a country, we cannot achieve the same results? We spend billions of naira on beavers, spend billions of naira on security, spend billions of naira for this, and yet we cannot achieve one result. What is the essence of beavers? When if I am accredited, my vote cannot be accepted or I cannot be pictured in any portal. Let us go back to the normal form, where you come with your paper, the community is here. They can see my face, they can see my picture. You tick me, I go straight to the voting system. Let us learn to save the money we don't have in this country.
Okay, thank you very much.
We are spending money on what does not even give us the result.
Thank you very much.
I want to beg the honorable in the studio, sir.
Thank you.
This is my grievance.
Thank you.
We can do away with all these humongous processes, cumbersome processes, and yet we can still achieve results.
The message is
thank you very much.
Electronically, we all have a PVN. Why can't we use our PVNs to vote?
Thank you. The Honorable will give you. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Honorable will give you an answer on that if he has any.
No, I think he's just stated his opinion, and he's very strong on it. But I believe that's where the country should go to. Electronically, we can't go back to manual. Manual had all the problems, and it's fraught with possibilities of manipulation.
It's not only that. Today, the level of insecurity and
will not allow us to
do them. You vote, you can't sleep in your house.
Yeah.
So we can only improve what we have, and we are not where we used to be. And I think it's important to always underscore that point. There's my question is, I think, is Abdullah that I still say my question to Honorable is, what does he think about the proposal for the establishment of the National Electoral Offences Commission? Do you think this is necessary, or you think INEC should be strengthened?
No, I think it is necessary because during the electoral process, the courts are shut down, as it were. All the judges are thrown into the tribunal, and every other thing in the country runs aground. What I believe is that there's electoral offences tribunal, and specific offences are specified out with specific penalties. People will be more deterred from doing what they're doing. In fact, one of my colleagues, I think he's from Jigawa, he has made a further amendment, proposed amendment to the amendment I made, where I said that the presiding officer shall transfer or transmit the results, including the total number of accredited votes and the results electronically. He has said in his own amendment that there should be an attached penalty. If that presiding officer fails to do that, he should go to jail.
But there is already that in the amendment law, in the Electoral Act 2022. There's a section that talks about negligence if they neglect to upload. But the challenge, Honorable, is who people don't just go to jail. Somebody has to complain.
Yes.
So somebody has to say this electoral officer did not.
That is where the tribunal, the act to set up the tribunal becomes important. That act is going to spell out all of this. And we are hoping from the proposals we are seeing that act will sanitize that aspect.
Yes, because oftentimes people just think that people just go to jail. No, even if it's in the law.
Somebody must take it up. Somebody must go to court.
Somebody has to first, say this INEC official refused to implement the law. And then, do you have an idea when this public hearing will hold?
I'm thinking in another year, because what we are looking at from my discussion with Chairman Electoral Matters, he's looking at the constitutional amendment, since there are some issues that are related, so that we run about the same time. But the goal is to make sure we do it on time before the 2027 election, so that there will be no stories of it's too late or something. And we also want to give room for any possible going back and forth with Mr. President. If we send the amendment and then he has a challenge with particular area, he sends it back to us and back and forth, so that we can conclude 6 months before the election proper. So in 2026, there should be an act that has been signed into law, amending the 2022 Act.
As we begin to wind down on the program, what is your view generally on the vision? What is your vision for the future of democracy considering these amendments? And also, how has your colleagues, how receptive have they been to this your proposal?
My colleagues have been very, very receptive. For instance, I have given an example of one of them who has gone further to propose another amendment on this my amendment. So I'm very glad the way the second reading was passed by the House, and since then the new amendments that have been coming up. So everybody's excited. We all want a democracy that works, because democracy, with all its flaws, is still the best form of government for any nation. And so far for our country, democracy is it. And the legislature is the fulcrum, when there's dictatorship coming up, it's the legislature they do away with first. But it's the legislature. I just came in from Kigali, and you see in their 3-arm zone equivalent to ours, the Senate comes first, even before the presidency. Even in America, the Capitol Hill comes before the White House. So that's my vision, that one day democracy will come to stay in this country. It will thrive. It will be based on the rule of law. Impunity will be done away with. The provisions of the law will be clear, and everybody will strive to keep to the law. And the results that come from election will reflect the will of the people.
You won your election in 2019.
Yes.
You returned in 2023.
With a wider margin.
Yes. With beavers.
Yes.
With all the... How did you win your election?
I won my election by performance. My people, the good people of Ughelli North, Ughelli South, and Udu will tell you that since 1999, if you put all the projects, infrastructure done by my predecessors together, it's not up to what I did in 4 years, 2019 to 2023. So it shows. Then you talk about lawmaking. In the 4 years, I proposed about 37 bills. This is, I was one of those nominated. I was a semi-finalist by the other paper when they looked at active parliamentarians in the 9th Assembly. My people also know that if you look at 1999 to 2019, the total bills by my predecessors was not up to what I did in 4 years. And then my bills were such that affect the lives of the people, the ordinary people. So why they don't vote me to come back?
So they voted.
They voted
and their votes counted.
And their votes counted.
So it means votes count.
Yes, it counts. The challenge is...
Because you can perform if votes don't count.
Yes, the votes are beginning to count. We must say that. The electoral process is improving. We want it to be better. That's the point. And for every person who goes into electoral contest, you have a responsibility to make sure that the votes given to you by your people are not wasted. So that I looked at my 903 polling units, knew where I could have challenges, made sure I manned them properly, and where there is complaint, I know where to take it to, and anybody who messed up knew that I would take it off. So every person that's contesting an election would have to do this. But I'm looking at a situation where you don't have to deploy all these man hours and resources as a contestant in order to make you win your election clean and square. I want a system where the system itself would produce results that should reflect the will of the people.
You see, my point is that your election reflected the will of your people.
Yes.
In the context of the same circumstances in which our elections are conducted.
With a lot of work by me to protect the
so
votes.
So politicians have work to do, and that this is the point in which I want to wrap this up. Yes. Can you give us your final thoughts so that we can begin to take the credits?
Yes, my final thoughts. I want Nigerians who participated in the system, particularly those who are not satisfied with the outcome, not to give up, not to say, oh, there's nothing to do about this, our votes don't count, we'll do nothing about it. No, this is our country. We have no other country, and nobody owns it more than us. Let's participate in it. Write up what you think should be an amendment. Pass it on to your rep. Pass it on to your senator. Make sure it is read on the floor. If your rep or your senator does not, look for another rep that will do that. And make sure that the changes we want in our country take place. And we have a better country for ourselves and for future generations.
Thank you. A very special thanks to our guest, Honorable Francis Waive. Just do what he did. Perform. Your people will return you. And to our dear listener for joining us on this amazing edition of the Electoral Reform Hour on the network service of Radio Nigeria, brought to you by Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PACA, with support from MacArthur Foundation. Remember that the discussion continues after the program. If you have any questions or contributions, you can reach us via our text messages or WhatsApp on 081 680 83424. The credits today goes to the engineer on duty, Leonard Silvanus and Jonadais Anyanwu. These are I hope I'm not murdering these names. The ICT is Oluwadami Lola Akinpelu, and studio manager is Finehas Udueyo. Producer is Ondohemba Orin, and supervisor is Husseina Akila MNI. The facilitating team are Grace Abu and Paul Anthony. See you next week. Thank you for listening.